Thank you, and good afternoon. A warm welcome to all of you here at the Evenaar in Eindhoven, but also a very warm welcome to our live streamers, the people tuning in from home or the office. Thank you very much. My name is Vera Kuipers, and I am the USA focal point for CreativeNL, kind of like a business development manager. And if you don't know what CreativeNL is, you will know right now. We are a platform for creative entrepreneurs and professionals with ambitions abroad. A small and enthusiastic team with different focus countries, Germany, China, and in my case, the United States. We help the Dutch creative sector to explore opportunities, partnerships, conferences, and help them navigate the path to expand their market. We aim to position the Dutch creative industries in our different respective countries. Today's CreativeNL live event, as part of Dutch Design Week, is all about the United States. We will dive into initiatives and focus areas where Dutch creatives are making strides to be seen, as well as they're expanding their market. So we have some interesting best practices, but also new opportunities, new challenges, cross-border observations, a very interesting session ahead of you. We start with spatial design and environmental quality of living. Then we will follow by digital design in a hybrid world, and we end with South by Southwest, Dutch innovation at South by Southwest in Austin. About 2 weeks ago, there was a second Sustainable Urban Design Summit held in Detroit, Michigan. This was organized by Detroit Is It, and that's a media partner, as well as the Netherlands Consulate General in Chicago. It was quite a success, many virtual as well as live attendees, and the main point was to have a Dutch-American dialogue in the field of urban design. One of the attendees and panelists was Rob Adams. He represents Embassy of Mobility as well as Six Fingers. And because he is such a creative mind with lots of experience in the world of spatial design concepts and livable cities, I asked Rob if he was interested in moderating today. Thankfully, he said yes, because he's very busy this Dutch Design Week. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Rob to the stage. Thank you, Rob. You can join in. Thank you. One more comment for everyone here in the audience. Please save your questions and remarks for the end. Take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, there will be lots of possibility to ask questions at the end. Nice to be here, or great to be here, like people in the US normally say. It's great to be here. And it's great to be here. I normally in the Evenaar, I know the Evenaar from when I was, well, not a small boy, I think from when I was 13 or 14 was the first time I came here. Watching concerts and now on stage, so I feel glad to be on stage now in the Evenaar. And 2 weeks ago it was about the Sustainable Urban Design Summit. So those are 4 words and 3 with content, Sustainable Urban Design. And that's 3 difficult kind of words, because what is sustainable, what is urban, and what is design actually? Well, I hope today we're going to dive deeper into it. But if you look to the idea of cities, I'm the curator of the Embassy of Mobility over here at Dutch Design Week. And the strange thing, if you think about cities, is that a lot of things are happening without us noticing. There's a lot of being published about smart cities, and smart means most of the time technology, the deployment of technology. Technology means efficiency, and this way we are building cities that are getting more efficient and more efficient. And I don't think that's a great way to build cities, because life is not about efficiency. At least I don't hope when I might have become 80 that I look back upon my life as having led the most efficient life ever. I think I did a lot of things wrong. But we are building cities for smart, and we're deploying technology, and we think we can steer everything, collect a lot of data. But cities should be built around the happiness of people living in the city. Each city, and you can actually design for happiness. And I don't mean with happiness singing Kumbaya by some wood fire with with a guitar. No, I mean with happiness. What are the things that makes people happy in a city, and how can we design cities that are sustainable, but from a happy point of view instead of from a smart point of view? Like Singapore is well known as being the most smartest city in the world, but people are not actually the most happy people in Singapore. Other cities make people much more happy. I like the idea of a city like Medellin in Colombia, in which they built the most beautiful library in the neighborhoods that were not economically that well driven, because people get proud. They look at this library. There are a lot of illiterate people up there who go into this library, and it makes people proud. So instead of building walls, we should build bridges to the neighborhoods, and that's what the discussion also was about in Detroit 2 weeks ago. And if you think about sustainable, it's such a big topic. It's too large to focus on. It's so large. I think a lot of politicians, they talk about transition because it's so big that they don't have to act anymore. I think you should define what you want to work on. And that's also what we're going to learn today. We've got 6 different guests. I'm happy to ask them a lot of questions. Feel free also over there online. If you've got questions, you can ask them too. So I hope we will have a beautiful afternoon this Tuesday with a lot of questions. But and to ask questions, that's good. I think the future manifests itself not in answers, but in questions. I think we have a society with too many answers, and we fight with each other. No, I'm the right one. I've got the right answer, and we fight with each other. Nobody listens to each other anymore. So my job is today to ask a lot of questions. I hope we are going to listen to each other instead of fighting for the right answer. There is no right answers. I think it's much more difficult to find the right question than to have just an answer. So looking forward to the day. So looking forward to this afternoon. So let's start.
Sustainability really means for us that the community is deciding what needs to be conserved and why it needs to be conserved.
The way we plan cities, the way we focus on cities is all about efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. And how can we design from a happy point of view? How can cities be designed in a way that people love living there, love sharing their life with other people, take care of the environment, take care of cities? In this world, which we need to build a better world, we can only do it by working together and collaborate. So let's not reinvent the wheel. A lot of wheels are everywhere, all around the world. I will focus and share insights on what's happening all over the world to build mobility from a point of view to make people more happy and build it on this sustainable world. So looking forward meeting you all.
So often when you have a big challenge, you don't ever get started because you don't know where to start, or you feel like you can't do enough to make it work. And we believe that the way we can really get traction to solve circularity is not to shame people for not being perfect, but encourage organizations and consumers to be progressively more conscious of our decisions.
Start with something that's already there, and you can take it and reposition it to be something else without knocking it down. You've already saved all the carbon that's been generated and locked into that building and into the materials and things that are already inside. So by simply keeping and changing the buildings that we have, we're building a brighter future.
We at Architectonics believe in innovative, multidisciplinary work. that combines advanced digital design process, rigorous research, and new fabrication methods across scales to create smart buildings, healthier forms of urban living, and concept-driven environments, buildings, and urban systems that foster more equitable and sustainable ways of life.
The Downtown Detroit Partnership is focused on sustainability, sustainability of place, sustainability of economies, and sustainability of just overall social fabrics within our community.
Sustainability is vital to Wilbur Throwbacks. It's because we're taking materials from the city and sharing the legacy of the materials by transforming them into something new.
The future will be even more open to the opportunities that push the limits of design practice. Now's the time to align research and ideas on how to adapt our human footprint and how to do this in a way that helps to restore biodiversity and really the overall health of our planet. This is such an excellent opportunity for us to have these conversations. How we can continue to increase our ability to positively impact the health of our cities, and at the same time, maybe start to adjust the trajectory of our human footprint.
I'm really interested to know how this takes place in this summit and how we, in this panel discussion, discuss how energy can be more sustainable, or how waste could be more circular, or how water systems could be more resilient, and all that in one same space, in this case, Detroit. I'm really looking forward to interact with the other panelists and to provoke a bit the questions of how do we get there. Because I think the what we are starting as spatial designers to imagine a lot, but the how is a really interesting question.
Welcome on stage, Andrea. You're from the Dutch consulate. Can you introduce yourself? What are you doing at the Dutch consulate? You're based in Chicago, not in Detroit.
Correct. Yeah. So thank you, and thank you to CreativeNL for hosting this afternoon during Dutch Design Week. Indeed, my name is Andrea van der Grinten. I work for the Dutch consulate in Chicago. We are a relatively small consulate with mostly an economic mission, and I'm economic officer there and focusing on smart cities, mobility, and creative industries. And more about that later. Our region, we focus on the Midwest, which is sometimes called flyover country, and people tend to focus when thinking of the U.S. on the West Coast and the East Coast, and New York and the San Franciscos. But the Midwest is a vast region, very interesting, with a lot of developments too. Our region encompasses 13 states from Kentucky to the Dakotas, and it's an area comparable to the area of Western Europe, and an economy similar to the economy of Germany. So, yeah, I help and foster trade relations in the areas that I just mentioned, the smart cities and creative industry. And then in the context of that, we developed the Sustainable Urban Design Summit, where you were also part of. Yeah. And yeah, thank you for coming over. It feels like yesterday, and it was actually like yesterday.
It was more or less yesterday. Yeah. I'm still I just finished my jet lag.
Yeah, and I'm in my own.
And you now have a jet lag.
Exactly. But so very excited that it came together again for the second year. I mean, it's looking at the right part. We have an amazing partner in Detroit with Detroit is It and Ivana, who will come in, I think, in a minute.
Be, in a few minutes.
Yeah, and we also had, as you could have seen from the little film, an amazing amount of experts within the sustainability sphere and circularity that fostered thought-provoking conversations. And we hope to continue that here and in the future also in the Detroit region, but also
now,
the whole of the US or broader.
It's a strange expression, flyover country, like Western Europe is a flyover country. But if you look at it, the Netherlands is much smaller than this flyover country, all those states together. But we are more, we think, and I think we are quite big in design. How does that relate in the US? How do they see the Netherlands or Dutch design?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm still also trying to answer it in different ways. I mean, there's communities, of course, that are very aware of the role and, in some ways, the forefront that the Dutch design community has, but in other areas, not at all. And that's what we're working on, or together collaborating and having the specialties also from the design community within, in this case, the Detroit region, to sort of enrich both community and have that dialogue to work and tackle and discuss like all the issues, current issues within the cities, and hopefully come to also solutions, urban solutions.
Yeah. And what is your impression? Do people in the US or the policymakers know what the Netherlands can add to them, or are they still figuring out where the Netherlands actually is?
Yes, some are. That's also a very, very good question. And so, I mean, I know Detroit as it knows, but not many people know. We already have a long-term collaboration, collaborative relationship with, in this case, the Michigan around mobility, also in the automotive and so forth. And looking at it from the big picture, the Dutch-American trade and investment supports about more than 40,000 jobs in Michigan, and it's
just in Michigan.
Just in Michigan, and it's in business innovation and culture. These partnerships really enriches us both. I mean, recent examples are the Piet Oudolf Garden in Belle Isle in Detroit, which you may have seen. I think you had, or the Van Gogh in America exhibition at the Detroit Institute of Art that we also saw. So I mean, it's a privilege to be able to build these bridges, so to speak, and work towards solutions and corporations. So essentially, there's the people from Detroit within the sphere should actually be here.
They should be here.
But so hopefully next time.
And there is Ivana. Well, you're not here, but you're still here. Ivana, welcome.
Hi, Ivana.
How are you doing?
Missing you.
That's nice.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Ivana, can you Detroit is it? I had the luxury of being there 2 weeks ago. I think Detroit is an amazing city with a lot of different kind of problems that we have from a sustainable point of view over here in the Netherlands. But can you introduce yourself and Detroit is it?
Sure. I am the founder of a media platform that's focused in on hyper-local content called Detroit Is It. We're 5 years old, and we focus in on city, community, and challenges and opportunities and stories within and the citizens that make up the city of Detroit.
And if you think from your perspective, if you look to Dutch design, what do you think Dutch design can add to the US and US design? I think we can learn a lot from each other. What's your biggest insight you gained in the summit 2 weeks ago?
So I've always personally been fascinated by Dutch design. I've had the privilege of experiencing Dutch design over my career and working with designers and Dutch companies, both product design, architecture, urban development, urban design. So I have had a little bit of a peek into the smart, innovative mindset of the Dutch. And I'm a big believer in building bridges, like Andrea said. So we are thrilled to have the relationship with the Consulate General out of Chicago with Andrea. I believe that we opened up quite a few eyes. I mean, collectively, we collectively opened up quite a few eyes in Detroit and in Southeast Michigan for opportunities to collaborate with Dutch partners and Dutch urban planners and Dutch architecture firms. So we really were working hard to invite over 30 speakers that were a real mix, 50-50, between Southeast Michigan, Detroit, and greater America. We had speakers out of New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, you name it, that had either Detroit or Dutch backgrounds and expertise. So I believe we were able to open up conversations and opportunities for both the Dutch and Detroit decision makers to see the opportunities in collaborating around building cities.
What do you think, Andrea? And this is also a question for you later, Ivana. If you mix or throw Dutch and US design at each other, if you mingle it, what can happen? What do you think that can happen, Andrea?
I mean, yeah, ideally, and we've seen some of it already happen, I think, in person when we were there, that, yeah, new collaborations can start, and we, as Ivana said as well, we can learn from each other and, yeah, appreciate each other's different approaches and look for the synergies and ideally come to new solutions for all, yeah, the urban challenges that both geographies grapple with, or basically, yeah, everyone at this point. We're for unprecedented change. So, yeah, I think just by having these thought-provoking conversations and asking the questions, as you said, and daring to ask the questions, I think then you can come to new solutions from different backgrounds and geographies.
Yeah. Ivana, if you look down on the summit, but also looking forward, what to you are the biggest questions we need to ask each other from a sustainable urban design point of view?
I think that's critical, and I'm glad you're asking the question. And one thing I learned about you, Rob, is that you're an out-of-the-box thinker, which we love, and we were really excited about having you particularly there and engaging with you both during the summit and around the summit and while you were spending time in Detroit. You know, the beauty with Detroit is that there's a city that has a footprint that in many ways is being rebuilt now. So the opportunity for Detroit as a city and other cities that are similar to Detroit that are, let's say, reestablishing themselves, now to me is the time to think sustainably about the foundational footprint for such cities. And when you have the knowledge and the innovative mindset that Dutch have through centuries of experience, and especially within the last few decades of experience, probably since the Industrial Revolution and the last up to, you know, starting the last 40, 50 years, looking at out-of-the-box thinking methodologies, looking at technology, looking at wind, looking at solar, looking at energy solutions, looking at community building in a way that doesn't only live within the Netherlands, but also has a global scope to it. I truly believe that those dialogues between, like I said, a city like Detroit, or Detroit in particular, and a Dutch geography are critical. So the way that we started these conversations foundationally was actually based off of water and the sustainability around water. Detroit is based on a large river system. Michigan has, you know, the largest amount of fresh water on the planet around the state of Michigan. So there's a lot of water ecosystems that are in and around Detroit. Clearly, the Dutch have had centuries of experience within the space of water. So that alone as one foundational premise was something that we were looking at building this dialogue around. And that's where we started. So, you know, there's many places that this conversation can go, but I certainly believe that we set a foundation in motion. And I believe that the conversations that were taking place in person with the information exchange and with the emails exchanged and with dialogue exchanged, I mean, I heard it personally, there truly seem to be relationships that are building, which was our goal.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, what's the biggest insight you want to share based on you've been at the consulate for the last 2 years. If I ask you in 40 seconds, what's the biggest insight you can share with us? What did you learn from the US-Dutch mingling?
That's a big question. But
it's a big
also,
question for 40 seconds.
But I mean, I think it's about having the conversations and finding the right partners that are sort of aligned, and then also finding other people. In this case, in the context of the Sustainable Urban Design Summit, also to get the support internally from the whole US network. And I think we have, because sustainable urban planning and design in the future is a focal point of the Dutch and the US network at large. So I think that was a good point. And all I can say is that I'm very happy we made it happen. Like, last year it was virtual, and we're finding our way, and let's do this, and how can we do this on a shoestring budget, basically. And so I'm grateful and happy that we just sort of pushed forward and made it happen also the second year with the support of colleagues in Washington and New York as well.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll hear from some of the participants in a bit. So,
Ivana, also for you for 40 seconds, because before we need to say goodbye again and miss each other again, what's the biggest insight you want to share in 40 seconds?
I am, as we would say, over the moon about the opportunity that we had with the Netherlands, with the Consulate General, with Dutch Design Week, and now with CreativeNL. Thank you for having me on and the opportunity to share this. I'm a believer in conversation, not just conversation, but figuring out how that conversation can produce change. And I think when you have the chance to, you know, working hard and a lot of work that goes behind all of these programs, as we all know, but when you have the chance to have real big minds that are also mixed in with community development leaders, with individuals that are living within these cities and citizens that are occupying the space, when you have the chance to put them together in one area or one, room for a day, magic can happen. And this is really what we're hoping just keeps continuing, because Detroit has a lot to learn from the Dutch, as does the rest of America. And I think vice versa. I think there's a lot of really cool things that are happening in Michigan and Detroit. And Rob, I think you saw some of them that are really cool that could also be translated into the Dutch ecosystem.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ivana. I need to wave goodbye to you. Thanks for being here, Andrea. Thank you too. And well, let's explore further.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to ask on stage Alex of MVRDV. Alex, can you explain a bit what you're doing? You're doing a lot. I noticed we spoke before, I read your bio. What are you deploying? What are you busy with at MVRDV?
Sure. Well, first off, thanks, Rob, for inviting us, and also to Vera and CreativeNL. It's great to be here, and also great to be in the FNR, which is an early MVRDV building here in Eindhoven. I think as we spoke before, and as you mentioned, Rob, MVRDV, we're an international architecture, urban planning, and landscape firm. Those started in the early 90s. We're based in Rotterdam, but have offices now globally in Shanghai, in Paris, Berlin, and then in New York since September this year, which is very exciting for us. And I think the topic is very interesting to explore because, especially as a Dutch architecture firm, we've now been practicing in the US for a handful of years and have seen a lot of opportunities and seen the interest in Dutch architecture and seen the interest in municipalities and developers, private clients, to really explore what Dutch architects can bring to the US.
And Rich, what is the biggest question you need to raise from an architecture point of view if you look to the topic of sustainability?
I think what we're looking at a lot at MVRDV is transformation and looking at ways to keep existing buildings or transform existing public spaces and to find new uses for them. And I think as architects, that's a really important sort of mission that we have, and also I think at MVRDV, is to look at that as a sustainable approach to building and creating public space and creating architecture and urban planning. So I think that for me, thinking of what we're doing right now in the office, that's I think one of the biggest challenges I think that we're facing.
And can you give an example of what you're working or what's there already? Can you give us an example?
Sure. I mean, I think our project in Detroit is also a good example. It's a project called Glass Mural, which is in Detroit's Eastern Market, which is one of the oldest public markets in the United States. And our client firm Real Estate reached out to us because they had a plot that had a two-story existing brick building that's adjacent to one of the existing markets. And they were looking at ways for us to come up with new ideas on how to create mixed use and office, retail, but also make something that feels part of the neighborhood. So we looked at an option of kind of looking at the existing structure and how do you kind of translate but keep the history of that neighborhood, which is also very much identified with urban graffiti. And so on that particular project, we worked together with the developer and also with one of the local graffiti artists, his name is Denial, to take one of his existing murals and actually apply it to the architecture. So it's actually quite interesting because you can still keep that sort of history or that trace of the previous building and his work, but also involve him in the process. So we looked at a kind of an innovative way to kind of take his mural and use it into a kind of print it onto glass and then use it as a way to kind of create a new envelope for the building. So I think we'll see that in one of the images that'll appear on the slideshow. But I think that's also, I think, something interesting is looking at sustainability, not only from an ecological perspective, but also from a social and also societal perspective about kind of keeping the traces of a history of a place and how do people see themselves in architecture and buildings.
Yeah, I've seen amazing murals in Detroit, and they add to the quality of life.
Sure.
If you start with projects, how do you define what you're going to do in a neighborhood? How do you define, of course, you've got objective measurements from a sustainable point of view, but how do you add the soft quality, because like I said, life is not about being efficient, but about enjoying life and making mistakes and maybe not increasing speed, but decreasing speed. How do you go with these things that are not that measurable? How do you add them and add flavor to neighborhoods all around the world?
I think there's always a kind of duality to these projects where you have a client who comes with a program or an idea about a specific site or project. And I think what we do is we always try to kind of think about the community, the neighborhood, the users, and try to find a way to kind of meet both of those demands. So looking at what the client's looking for, but then also looking at what this neighborhood needs and what the people will expect.
But are you then going into the streets and talk with people? How?
I think community engagement is a big part of our work, together with our clients and also independently. It's about kind of speaking to people within the neighborhood, either for more informally, if you cross people on the street and ask them what they think about a specific site or what they need. You can also do it in more formal settings, in sort of community halls where you might invite the community to come and also share their experiences and their expectations on a project. And I think that really informs what the ultimate project will end up being like. So I think that's very much part of our work, not only at MVRDV, but I think also a lot of Dutch architects and designers.
And how much freedom do you get in projects? Because I think the future starts with not knowing, and quite some people or clients of you, do they actually know what they really need, or do they think they know what they need? Because in my brain, sometimes we need this and this and this. Well, yeah, you can challenge in the challenging how. Do you need to be a challenger if you start with these projects? Because there are a lot of fixed ideas in a city.
I think it's very much part of the process where the client comes with a specific brief, but as you're starting to develop a concept and as we as a creative firm start to present ideas, I think it starts to open up the client's ideas or what their imagination is for a specific place or project. And I think it's a process. I think that we've always seen that in projects where the program maybe transforms or new uses come in once the design starts to get more developed, because it just starts to spark more creativity in terms of what's possible. And then I think also the input that we're getting from the community through these engagement processes also I think informs how the project can change. But I think as designers, and I think MVRDV in particular, we really do push clients and our partners to kind of think a bit differently about a project, not only programmatically, but also architecturally.
And are there things you did not yet succeed in which you want to succeed? What is the most difficult thing in your job?
I think in my job in particular, I'm within our business development team.
Yeah.
So my job is really to sort of look for new projects and to kind of see what's out there and what's a good fit for MVRDV. I think there's always challenges in that process, especially because we are sometimes looking at projects that might be more commercial or ones that might be more public, and you're always trying to kind of find a happy medium between the two, especially with such a large architecture firm. And I think for us, it's about finding that right balance of making work that's quite meaningful for the public, but it's also quite successful from a commercial perspective.
Okay. And if you would define creativity from a Dutch perspective or a US perspective, is it related, or are there differences you can detect?
I mean, I think there's a gradient because there's obviously a lot of influence on either side. I think sort of influence within American culture on sort of European history and then vice versa. So I think that there's something quite interesting when we come with creativity. And I think what MVRDV and I think other Dutch firms bring is a lot of playfulness, innovation, but also sensitivity, I think, to specific contexts and making architecture that reflects the people that it's serving. I think that's something that's quite key in public space design and also in architecture, is that people see themselves in the future projects that are being built in their neighborhoods. So I think that what I've seen from municipalities and developers and private clients in the US is that they look for that level of innovation and different thinking from Dutch architecture firms. And
what can Dutch architects learn from US-based firms?
I think that's also a good question. I think we're learning in that whole process, especially as we, as a Dutch firm, partner together with local American architecture urban planning firms, is that there's a lot to learn from the other side about how the processes work really in the US and how do you speak to communities and people there, because it is quite different, I think, than in Europe. I think there's a different relationship, I think, between architecture and people and public space in the US than there is here. And so I think that there's a lot to learn about the sensitivities, I think, between both cultures.
And if you look, I think around, if you would draw up a house based on the specifications of a city like Eindhoven, about 70% of your house would be a garage. If you look to the city of Eindhoven, it has 2.2 million square meters of just parking space, so not just roads. So that's around 10 square meters for each inhabitant. Now, me and my family have got 2 kids. We have 40 square meters parking space in the city. That's crazy. How can we make sure that we take back this public space? Because we've given up a lot of public space in the last 70 years to cars. Is that something that MVRDV is working on?
I think we are working on that, especially working together with cities that are looking at different ways of approaching mobility. I think the idea of kind of taking the car out of the city and replacing it with more sustainable modes of transportation is a way, I think, to change people's mindset about how they move. And I think that we're addressing that more and more, especially on our urban planning projects, is to partner with very interesting mobility experts who come in and kind of help us and also our clients think differently about how the cities are built, to take away cars from city centers, how to pedestrianize city centers. And I think that's a really successful way of, I think, gradually changing people's way, at least mindset or ways of using car.
And which cities or which clients are leading in this kind of way? Can you maybe give an example? Because from a sustainable point of view, which city is, well, it's not a race, but which city is more or less leading, or which cities are up front in this sustainable challenge we have?
I mean, I don't know which cities in particular are maybe leading the charge, but I have seen a lot of interesting efforts made and developments made in cities like Paris, for example, where there's certain days of the week where streets are car-free, and so they really open up streets in the city center to be only used by pedestrians or bicyclists. I think we're seeing also in a lot of cities like New York, for example, that there's a much stronger effort to create bicycle lanes within the city centers to also promote and make it safer. I think those are two examples I can think of off the top of my head, but I think we're seeing more and more cities making more efforts to change a little bit of the way that people are moving around, using public transport, using bicycles, and making city centers more pedestrian.
Okay. Before we wrap up, what is the biggest challenge you want to tackle from a personal point of view if you think about cities?
That's a very big question. I think, I don't think there's one main issue. I think we've touched upon a lot of them, I think, now in this conversation. I think it really is about finding more sustainable ways to live in the city, not only from a design perspective, but then also making it more affordable. I think as architects, we're really trying to focus more on creating opportunities for affordable housing. And I think that's a way to kind of keep people in the city center and also to keep diversity in terms of the people who are living there. So I think that's a big challenge, I think I would say maybe is affordable housing.
Okay, that's a great one, affordable housing.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Yep, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now I'd like to ask on stage Lotte. We also met in Detroit. You were before Detroit, you were in Chicago. You've got a great project going on. For me, it's hard to say it properly. Can you explain what you're doing?
Yes. Well, I'm from Philips Studios, which is an art and design studio based in Arnhem, in the Netherlands. The project we're working, or we kind of launched now, and with which I traveled to Atlanta and Detroit.
Oh, Atlanta, yeah.
Is Arabidopsis Symphony.
Yeah, that's why Arabidopsis Symphony is too difficult for me.
Well, the Arabidopsis is a tiny plant, very inconspicuous, but it grows almost everywhere. But it's our protagonist, I guess, of the project.
Yeah.
So.
And what do you do with this project? Because I downloaded the app and I saw, well, you need to experience this because I think it's hard to translate. But still, I ask you, can you explain what you're doing?
It's Arabidopsis Symphony is a combination of augmented reality and music, and we use real scientific data of plants. We collaborate with a plant scientist from Wageningen University, so it's real. It's all his research. And we connected that to real-time data of the location where the installation is present. So that's currently Eindhoven at Dutch Design Week on the Wilhelminaplein. Yeah. When you use our app, you open up the world of plants. You can, in augmented reality, walk through a field of plants. You can see it in the pictures. And at the same time, you hear music coming from those plants. They all make different sounds. And kind of create an orchestra together. And the goal of this is that you feel more of a symbiotic relationship with plants or with the world around you instead of a very human-centered one. What's interesting about it is that the experience here in Eindhoven is totally different from Detroit and also Atlanta, because the real-time local data from weather, temperature, and time of day is different each time, and it's connected to that music and what it looks like.
And what happens with people when they experience it?
Well, I guess they are always immediately very surprised by just being able to walk through this field.
Yeah.
I guess they become, and that's actually our goal, they become very curious about the background, like what are those genes and hormones that are responsible for these movements? Like, what is that data you use? From
an interest point of view or a conspicuous point of view?
No, from a very interested point of view. And that's actually what we want to achieve. Like our slogan is impact through wonder. So people start to wonder, and from there you can transfer an idea of a new perspective on something.
Is that something we need from a human point of view, that we wonder more?
Yes, I think so. I think it's actually one of the most important things for a human to do, because from this wonder, it's a really good starting point to change some things, to change how we deal with certain things. Especially if you don't know much about it, then wonder is a really good starting point to start to learn more about it, because you're interested in it and you have the attention.
And why do we forget a lot? The ability to wonder, that's something maybe we forget, because do we think people wonder enough?
That's a good question. I personally think we're kind of distracted by a lot of modern technologies.
Like a mobile?
Like a mobile phone, yes. For example, social media, we can scroll endlessly, and it doesn't really add something to our life. And I think sometimes a lot of entertainment things and things like social media, they are too direct. So the wonder is not there anymore. Everything needs to be quick. There's no time for ourselves to, take the time to dive deeper in some subject.
Yeah. And from an artist or design point of view, would you consider yourself an artist or a designer? Or an artistic designer?
Good question. It makes it extra complicated, because I'm doing mostly communications for the studio. So the founders are mostly the designers or artists. We actually, we call ourselves art and design studio. So
that's a Dutch solution. Bring them both together.
Just combine them together. I think I see Arabidopsis symphony as more of an artistic translation of scientific data.
Yeah.
But other projects we've done are more design-like, especially what we call design research, when we really dive into the scientific part together with Eindhoven University, for example. Then I'd say it's design again, but it's not product design.
Yeah. And what can the way you work as a studio, how can cities benefit from it? What can we deploy in a city based on the experience, the insights you've gained during projects?
What we can change, well, I guess what I said about wonder, I think when you use art and design to promote this sense of wonder in all the citizens in a city, then you can actually make a change together, start giving them a new perspective and understanding why they maybe should choose to take the bus instead of a car, or could be anything, or maybe get the tiles out of their gardens and put plants in them, because plants are important. So I think in that sense, art and design is a very useful tool to do that.
So the art of wondering.
Yes.
That's something we need to be trained at again.
Yes.
I think kids have them all the time. They ask questions all the time,
yes.
and then you become deadly serious because you need this job. The biggest insight you've gained in the last 4 days already, Dutch Design Week. So you've been at the plan at the Wilhelmina plan for 4 days. What's the biggest insight you've gained in the last 4 days, speaking with people?
Well, I think what I mentioned before, that maybe we didn't really expect that people would want to dive into that actual scientific data immediately. Okay. But that's almost the only question I got. Like, can I somewhere see what's happening behind all this?
Why do you think they want to know? Why do they want to know?
I guess, well, maybe there is this. I think also a lot of visitors to Dutch Design Week already have made a first switch, maybe, and are more sensitive to initiatives for change, I think. They want to know more about it and know what they can do themselves and how these plants work, so they can feel themselves this symbiotic relationship instead of the human-centered one, because they realize how important it is.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Lotte.
Thank you.
Thanks. It feels like a talk show with a lot of guests, and that's true. So I'd like to invite Bert on stage.
Hi, Rob.
And I thought I'd say it in Dutch, Bert, instead of Bert in English. That's okay with you, I guess.
That's okay with me, yeah.
You're with Dutch. We have the Dutch Design Week. You've got Dutch Digital Design. Can you explain what Dutch Digital Design stands for?
Yes, definitely. So it is something I do next to my job. I'm helping creative agencies with positioning and growth strategy. And next to that, I'm founder and chairman of the Dutch Digital Design Initiative, which is an association. And it's basically a stage for the very best, I have some slides, for the very best digital design from the Netherlands. To showcase that to the world, the digital part of Dutch design, for that matter. Strengthen the attraction towards potential clients, potential partners, potential talent within the Netherlands and outside of the Netherlands.
If you think about Dutch digital design, it's not typical the Dutch to say I'm the greatest, but are we great in digital design, or are we?
We're quite good.
Quite good. That's a typical Dutch expression. We're quite good.
Well, it's an interesting question, because when we started it back in 2014, it was a different situation. I think it's better now. We have a better reputation, and of course, if we contributed a little bit to that, that's good. But it's a lot of other things too.
Yeah.
So I think the state of being now, the Dutch have really quite a good story, a strong story in digital worldwide.
And I know you've got some examples. Can you tell more about the examples you have with you?
Yes. So I tried to make a bridge. Like CreativeNL asked me to make a bridge between the physical space and the digital space. So that's what I did. So I brought along three cases, not per se US-related cases, but I think excellent examples where the physical and the digital space come together.
Okay.
So, the first case is a very big project. I didn't know about the project, and one of the board members of Dutch Digital Design is Sebastian Scheer. He's head of design at Media Monks.
Yeah.
And he shared this with me, and I was like, what? This is so big. I have never seen a project that big. It's the Hellinikon Experience Center. It's in Greece, and it's right below Athens.
Yeah.
And it's Europe's largest urban redevelopment project, and also the biggest experiential project from Media Monks.
Yeah.
It was previously an airport, and it's now a metropolitan park, just like New York Central Park is. Yeah. And it's a very large area. It's 600,000 square meters with green and open spaces. It's open since July this year, by the way. And Media Monks created 6 immersive zones with 23 interactive touch points. So that's huge. A fully connected experience is what they say about it. And there you can learn and experience what the park will be. And I brought a video. Shall I play it?
Please do.
Okay. The music. Yeah.
You're always waiting for this thing to happen.
I don't know about the music. Maybe it's a Greek thing. I don't know.
I don't know whether or not it's Greek music. I don't know.
Same here. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, you got another example?
Yes, that's another example. That is a winner of the Dutch Design Awards.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was jury chairman of the now called Jury Data and Interaction.
Yeah.
And it was the winner there. It's a case by Clever Frank. It's the BMX live visualization. And it's an innovative solution for BMX riders, the sport. And it's a big screen where you can see the performance of the riders. Because the bikes have got technology attached to their bikes. So it generates real-time data visualization, which has a benefit to a couple of people. For starters, the riders can immediately see their performances on screen. The jury members can do better judging, of course, and the visitors have a much richer experience. Let's watch the video.
Yeah, with other music.
With other music.
The reason why I put so much effort in riding is because I love it. What's really exciting about BMX riding is the freedom you have, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. I love to do it with my friends because we all ride together, push each other, and have a good time.
The Royal Dutch Cycling Federation encourages cyclists to become the best version of themselves. As a relatively new discipline, it's our goal to attract more people to the exciting, fascinating sport of freestyle BMX. We want to give fans, spectators and competitors an engaging front-seat experience into the bikers' performance through a compelling, easy-to-understand showcase of their run. Using sensor technology, we capture the speed, lift and orientation of the bikers. A real-time data visualization digitally reproduces their performance, highlighting every trick across the entire park. This enables bikers to analyze their performance and helps the judges to better assess their ride. Moreover, the captivating visuals enhance the spectator's experience.
That's the second one.
That's the second one. I know you got a third one.
I do.
Please show.
Okay. So the last case I have is a case that's going to be featured on the Dutch Digital Design channels as well, the website and social.
Yeah.
It's an interactive installation that was to be seen at the Het Nieuwe Instituut in Rotterdam. And it's created by, here we go, interesting, artist and designer, Richard Vijgen. So the installation is called True Artificial Eyes.
Yeah.
And it lets you have a look at more than 500 episodes of the VPRO Tegenlicht. But through the eyes of the computer algorithm. So you can see through 3 different eyes in the collection. And you can play around with sliders and see the effect.
And you say 3 different eyes. Which kind of 3 different eyes are there?
So, yes, there is one called people, one called artifacts, and one called natural objects.
Okay.
So in those 3 categories, you can just slide and find, what you want to see on screen.
Yeah.
So it directly responds to that, and the installation is quite simple and really invites you to interact. Let's have a look.
And you called it simple?
Let's have a look.
Okay. Can you explain a bit more what it actually does? Because it's so bad, people so expect Putin. But what does it actually do? This one?
It tries to make you more aware on how algorithm is looking at data.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's quite accurate, and sometimes it may be not. So it's more an awareness thing that you. That you get the experience of seeing where it puts a line between 2.
Okay.
And that is the thing that it makes you more aware of.
Okay, okay.
And I also love the sound design in the installation. It's really great stuff.
It feels like something you are discovering something.
Yes.
Instead of wondering, it's about discovering.
Yeah. And it's also to be seen here at Dutch Design Week. A smaller version, that is.
Where?
That is in the Klokgebouw. VPRO Tegenlicht, that is hall 4.
Oh, yeah.
And after that, the installation is going to be traveling around. Also other museums and also other image databanks and film collections.
Okay.
And to end with, I spoke to Richard Vijgen, the creator of this. He's now working on a new project in the US. And that is an AR app. That's a nice thing. Lotte also showed, a nice example of that. This is an AR app for the oldest tree in New York. It's on Manhattan Square. And there will be sensors on the tree measuring the ground, the temperature, the weather. And that will be visualized in the AR app. So that is coming up soon.
Okay. Okay. A tree combined with AR.
Yes.
Oh, that's it. If I go back to Dutch and the US, because that's also one of the topics for today, what does Dutch digital design mean in the US? Because you've got examples from Athens, from all over the world. It's not focused, not just about the US, but what can we give or learn from each other?
I think a lot, and I'll share some examples of what we do in the US with Dutch digital design and where that comes from as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I should first explain a bit more about Dutch digital design. First, it's a community of those 30 partner agencies on the screen here. It's a wide variety of digital design-related businesses, smaller and bigger and anything in between. And they support the initiative and make it possible, of course. But it's not just our partners, but everyone can submit interactive projects via our website. So that can be a website, an app, interactive installation, AR, VR, connected devices. And then curators will have a look at the work and discuss what is the best to show on the stage.
Yeah.
But we also generate speaking spots at events across the globe. Well, to start with, Dutch Design Week. A couple of years already, we work closely together with the Dutch Design Week on the DDW Talks event on the Friday. So coming Friday, we have 2 events. One, a creative jam for 100 talents, and get them together with all of these agencies. And then in the afternoon, we have DDW Talks with Wonderland, Densu Achtung, Random Studio, and The Fabricant, for example. But across the globe as well. So in Cannes Lions, we have a presence, and also at South by Southwest. I'll share a bit later on that. But we also share the work and the vision of the partners on several channels with media partners inside the Netherlands and outside the Netherlands. So like at Formatie and the Drum. The Drum, I have to say. And we put a spotlight on winners of awards. Of course, the Webby Awards, which is still the Oscars of the internet. Yeah. But also the European Design Awards and the Red Dot Awards, etc. And finally, as a community, we come together and exchange knowledge and work together where we can. In the beginning of your video, you were also saying the big chance for people to work together and collaborate, and I think that's a strong Dutch thing. Yeah. So I think the Dutch have got quite a good story in Dutch design, that is, of course, and maybe not all sectors know about that. That was in the beginning of the show as well. Yeah.
And are we great from a Dutch design perspective in embracing diversity?
I think so, because I think the Dutch are used to working with different nationalities, being a small trade country, and also different disciplines. And that goes very well for digital design expertise, of course. I think it's extremely interesting to see how those worlds can come together and what happens when you put different disciplines together, have people work on a project and combine their expertises there. Yeah, we've got a story there.
And are we great in organizing then diversity?
That's a complex question, I think, to answer. If we look in the industry right now, we have steps to make. But when you look at combining the disciplines, that is very true. Okay. I think that works well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the power of collaboration. I mean, that's what we do within the Dutch Digital Design Initiative. That's what you do with CreativeNL. That's what the Dutch Design Week does for a lot of years already. So yeah, we have got a strong story there, I think.
Yeah. And you mentioned South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Some of us know South by Southwest, some of us don't. Can you explain what South by Southwest is?
Yes, if Cannes Lions is the global event on creativity, then South by Southwest is maybe the one on technology, where all the new things happen and people share that. But also creativity is also becoming more important. And when that comes together, that it's a very interesting spot. But it started out as a music conference, so it's wider than that. Yeah. But Danny will, after me, will also
focus into that.
Share more on that. Yeah. But I think tapping into the subject of today, the US, there's quite a couple of digital agencies that are in the collective that have an office in the US. Clever Franke is in Chicago. Scott de Zur is in Austin, where South by Southwest is. Yeah. Your Majesty in New York. Dept has 10 locations in the US. And New York has got LA, New York, San Francisco, Toronto, Vancouver. So that's quite a bit already. Each year within the Stichting, we have a survey we put out to the partners and ask them on their goals for the coming year and also on their international focus. And the last time we asked that, obviously the US is definitely the number one to do business with.
Why is that?
It's an interesting, it's market of scale. So that is
definitely. But Asia is also a big market.
Sorry?
Asia is also a big market.
Oh, Asia, yeah. Yeah, but it's more difficult in terms of culture, I think. and there's also more ties to the US, already existing ties with the US, I think. So most are focusing within the US field on San Francisco, New York, and LA.
So we fly over the Midwest then?
Yes. Well, here we come.
Okay.
Germany and the UK have a second place.
Yeah.
And the third place is a growing interest into China and Japan. So that is interesting. But so coming from the survey, we got to know Peter Post from the Netherlands Business Support Office in LA. And we started thinking about what we could do together. So in the COVID years, we did many online meetings with him to discover what we can do in LA. And also had a couple of workshops on what the proposition of a collective of Dutch agencies could have there. We were close to going and flying over to a big automotive event called Commotion LA, but unforeseen circumstances, we had to cancel it. But we're still looking into opportunities that we can do something there.
Yeah.
And this is also something on screen here. We also collaborate in 2 US-focused global events. The first one was the Pixel Show in Brazil, supported by the Dutch Council in Sao Paulo. That was the biggest creative event in Latin America. And we had 7 of our partners presenting with the theme Digital Design for Good. So you see Jeroen van Erp here from Fabriek. The second one was the global FITC event based in Canada. We had the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Toronto presenting, and she kicked off 4 presentations by the agency. So that's what we also do. And of course, the Webby Awards.
Yeah.
The Oscars of the Internet. Yeah. And it's interesting, how is the Netherlands doing on the stage of the Webby Awards? And that's why I asked. And they told me we are amongst the 7 best performing countries across the globe, so that's pretty good. The Netherlands represents the most awarded market outside of the US, followed by the UK, Canada, Australia, Sweden, and Denmark. And we work together with the Webby Awards as well. They have an annual event coming over to Amsterdam, so the 10th of November we organize an event at Depth, where they come and share some knowledge with the group of Dutch creatives.
Okay.
And then, yes, the South by Southwest.
South by Southwest. So thank you so much for all the explanation and the great examples we've seen. And I'd like to ask Danny on stage to give more insights in South by Southwest.
So I need to watch the cross before I stand, right? I'm also not that big. So thank you, Bert. Thank you, Rob, for having me here today. Thank you, audience at home. Thank you, Ruba, for watching. I know you're watching. Peter's actually also watching, Bert. So I'm going to do a high five to Peter. So my name is Danny Friedman. I'm one of the founders of New Dutch Wave. New Dutch Wave was created in 2017 specifically for South by Southwest. So I'm going to take you, I think, about 15 minutes, a little bit of a tour about South by Southwest. Bert already told us today it was created in 1987 based on a musician festival, and it took about a little bit more over 30 years to become what it is. And I have a video to show you a little bit what South by Southwest is today. And I hope this is working. Here we go.
South by Southwest to me is one of the most unique festivals because it not only includes film and music, it's technology, it's coming together of all different walks of art.
Tech, music, comedy, movies, and that combined with the food's good.
It's the among the people from international community gather here to build bridges.
It's the meeting of the minds. People are coming here to learn.
I know that regardless of where I go, I'm going to meet somebody who is breaking boundaries, and I'm going to have a great experience.
Creative-minded people from different disciplines in the same environment, and that creates a unique energy that you don't find in other places.
Different nationalities and different cultures, it's everything.
It's a community that's active and vibrant all year round. I can't think of another event, another conference where that is true.
So, before I tell you a little bit more about what we do at New Dutch Wave, I'll tell you a little bit about Austin, right? So, South by Southwest is taking over the city. It is, before COVID, it had about 200,000 visitors visiting Austin in 10 days. And such as Bert said, it were technicians, there were creatives, musicians, film musicians, startups, scale-ups, investors, and they all came to Austin and basically took over the CDM themselves. So of course, after COVID, we had an online edition in 2021 where our mayor Abu Talib actually was one of the keynotes. And in 2022, this year, only 6 months ago, we were there with Bert and also with CreativeNL. We took about 40 creatives towards Austin, and we had what we call a Flying Dutchman, which I will showcase a little bit more. I give you a small flavor of what we do at New Dutch Wave, but I also brought a video.
New Dutch Wave is a really nice initiative, and it makes it really easy to connect with other people in the industry.
I've met so many people and different agencies that I didn't know before, and it was really cool seeing the work that's been done over the past few years.
For me, South by Southwest is an excellent opportunity to present the group of Dutch creative agencies, but also for myself to meet others and other organizations, agencies, brands, and to also see interesting sessions.
We're very happy to be part of the New Dutch Wave group and to meet all the Dutch people. We met a lot of new people, and of course also to meet a lot of international people.
The main reason why I'm here is that every time I'm blown away by all the things I hear every day in separate sessions.
Previously, the New Dutch Wave had its own Dutch house, and now it's like a traveling company of a group of Dutch people, really connecting every time with others. So that is perfect.
Right now, we are having this fantastic meetup between the Dutch delegation and the Danish delegation, and this is what it's all about: going to South by, the collaboration, the meetups, the matchmaking. So we're so excited today.
It's very easy to get to know and make new contacts, and that's just a cool reason to be here.
Meet people and speak to people, eat with people, drink with people.
You can feel the vibe. It's really good. Yeah.
Always gives a good flavor of what we do. So basically what we do, because when you get to Austin, you get to South by South with so many people, you can easily get lost. And New Dutch Wave is just this new type of mission to really, on the bandwidth of South by Southwest, with the musician and the creators of, we're in amazing Eindhoven, so it's a little bit the same, but then on a bigger scale in Austin, we're actually taking people from the Netherlands towards Austin. We've did this since 2017. Actually, in 2018, in a counterwave, we were here. We traveled from Amsterdam, dance event through Rotterdam, ended up in Eindhoven. And actually, we took an Eindhoven delegation in 2019 back towards Austin. So if you look, here we go. We created this Flying Dutchman principle, and Bert mentioned it in his video. Is in the previous years, we had our own spot in Austin, right? So we could go there. We had this a little bit like a Holland House where we go into Heineken. But when after COVID, we thought of, international collaboration, what it's all actually about, probably also in this CreativeNL week with China and other countries, and Germany, is that what if we could foster this partnership also with other European countries, in this case, Germany and Austria. So in 2022, we launched this international house, and also we launched a Flying Dutchman principle. Actually, Linda Holloman also in the audience. Hi, Linda, Jean-Paul at home. They created this tour where we actually took the Dutch people towards other partners, other countries, but also very interesting matchmaking parties, such as, for instance, WeTransfer, the Rolling Stone magazine, which is not a bad place to be. So we took this Flying Dutchman principle, and actually we're also going to launch that for 2023, and actually we already launched it a couple of weeks back. These are some of the partners, and actually, also that's why I think, probably that's why I'm the last one. We, of course, heard Bert about the partners from the Dutch Digital Design, but also, of course, from the Dutch digital agencies, and much more. Cities, of course, the CreativeNL, and our central government also is co-funding this initiative as well. For this year, we already have City of Rotterdam confirmed for 2023, and an amazing speaker, which will be launched on the 1st of November, which I'm not going to tell today. So you wait out a little bit more. So 2023, it is of course a blueprint of what we did last year. And to be honest, there is a logo from KLM. Unfortunately, I think this is already closed. KLM is and will be a partner for us for 2023. We had a package, but I think, to be honest, also Linda, that date has already stopped. So we didn't rent a plane, but we had the opportunity to book flights in a specific plane, traveling from the 8th of March by heart towards Austin. And I think there are about 20 people from our tour gathered in that plane, which will go towards Austin. We will focus, of course, on the tour again, and as you can imagine, actually also Michigan, we also work closely with Michigan, but also other countries such as, of course, Denmark, the British music industry, and much, much more to come. So this is for me hard to read, but for you, I hope at home better. So this is a little bit of flavor of what we did in 2022, not to go into due to time. So, but we started out on Friday with, of course, a matchmaking event, a breakfast, of course. We had the opening with our Mayor Adler, and the Mayor Adler is actually leaving office end of this month, so there'll be a new mayor of Austin opening up also South by Southwest next year. The tour, which is of course linked towards the audiences we're taking with us, right? So, for instance, you can imagine that sport could be a very interesting topic for next year. So we're now thinking of also creating a sports tech mission as part of our tour as well. So we also always look at, what value can we bring towards the people that come with us, join with us, and can we amplify their messaging to when we are in Austin. And this goes on until Tuesday. So this was already, of course, for 2022. You already saw a little bit of Denmark in there as well. We also had a Smart City Day. I actually saw a colleague of mine, Johan Bele, walking around, but I think you already left. So, what is the impact of digitalization on cities? We call this smart cities. We do that in a collab with maybe a corporate partner or with a city official, but we also always try to make a crossover during this week. In this own spot, we share with the Germans and the Austrians, right? So we don't have our own Holland House anymore, but we do have an international place where we go in, you meet other Dutch people, but also you meet other Germans, Austrians, Danish people, Austrian people that want to mix, of course, people from the US that are there. And this mixture, and they have a specific phrase for this. It's called South by Dippity. I always mention this. People's going to laugh at home. It is the state that you can actually meet your investor when going to the bathroom, because you never know who you're going to meet, right? So we always try to advise, don't cramp your agenda with programming and keynotes and meetings, but leave room open for creativity. And this term, that term is South by Dippity. So hopefully we see you at South by next year. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I was supposed not to touch it.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
You're welcome, Rob.
Yeah.
Yes, good to have you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're now going, it's a detour. We've started with cities and architecture to the arts or art and design, how we like to call it, to digital, and now we're going on to even more arts, in my opinion. So I'd like to ask Vera on stage.
Yes, thank you. So far, it's been very inspiring. And in terms of South by, I was thinking of people that also make a difference in Austin or have been asked to collaborate with brands or for brand activations and other opportunities to speak, whether online or in person. And one of these people is Anouk Wipprecht. She is Dutch, but she lives in Miami right now. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here in person because, well, it's good for her. She's very popular. She travels between Vegas to work with an illusionist, David Blaine, then is in Hawaii, and then she works in New York. She designed clothing for Fergie with the Super Bowl. And it's quite spectacular, all that she does. So I wanted to introduce her personally so that you have a better feeling of who she is, what difference she makes. Also very good in advocating for women to go into STEAM, because we have to add the A of art to STEM. I want to emphasize that. So yeah, we asked her to present online, so you will be able to learn more from Anouk herself and what she does. But I definitely wanted to explain what the link is, and she is. You have to look up her website and see her busy schedule, going all over the US and representing the Netherlands in a really exciting way. Thank you.
Hey everybody at the Dutch Design Week. My name is Anouk Wipprecht. I am a fashion tech designer. I combine fashion with technology. So I use a lot of like microcontrollers and motors and sensors and all kinds of cool stuff in my designs. And yeah, I mainly live in the United States of America. I'm doing a lot of jobs here and I have a lot of clients. So I've been yeah, working over here since 2012 around this time. And yeah, I grew up in the Netherlands. I'm really fascinated by like mechanics. I loved always like the windmills and anything just mechanical and electronic. So I was always very like fascinated by that. So I made it my profession, but also by and through combining it with fashion, which is another fascination for me. Fashion for me is expressive, something that we can express ourselves through, and something that we can communicate something very personal from ourselves through, sort of, you know. So I found it very interesting, and throughout my yeah, sort of my studying, I wanted to combine both the sort of the fashion elements that I got fascinated by, and also the mechanical and electronic elements. So I started to combine that around the beginning of 2000 and merge basically these two fields together. So I'm not the only one doing this. There's a lot of yeah, cool people in this field, and a lot of actually are from the Netherlands. You have Pauline van Dongen. She does a lot of innovation and research using solar and solar panels. Marina Toeters is another one. She does a lot of interesting work in the fashion tech field. So there's a lot of like interesting yeah, people in the Netherlands that are focused on a little bit more like sort of hybrid professions, if I can call it that way. Things that are yeah, a little bit different than the normative industries like fashion, like technology, but really blending multiple things together. And I think that's kind of a really cool thing about if you're talking about the landscape of the Netherlands and what we're doing and what we're yeah, trying to achieve using innovation in different ways. And I think the Dutch especially are yeah, a little bit more freaky in that kind, and like want to go into more the unknown, the things that are not there yet, sort of, you know, and like yeah, look deeper into that. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the things that I do, and I'm going to pull up some slides for that to do so. And talk a little bit over it. So one of my designs is a robotic spider dress. So it is a dress that has yeah, robotic elements in it, and it uses proximity sensors. So when you step in the proxemics into the personal space of this design, the design is reacting. So it is literally yeah, mounting out. It's attacking, you know. And yeah, for me, this design is quite interesting. I have a few versions, a laser cut version, a 3D printed version. But yeah, for me, this notion of personal space, and as an artist, being able to make a statement about personal space is really interesting, because yeah, not only from the notion of like yeah, discussing personal space, like what is yours, what is others, sort of, you know, but also what I started to notice when I travel around with this design is that yeah, really different cultures have different personal spaces, because when I present the spider dress in the Netherlands, people come up very quickly, very close by, versus when I present it in America, I always say it's more a gentleman distance or a gentlewoman distance from this design. So I can see in both my data, but also in the behavior of the dress, how people are yeah, really considering personal space differently when that is here or in Asia or in different countries, because this design is traveling around a lot. And that is quite interesting if you're talking about these spaces and preservation of the space and our personal space, something that is really ours, sort of, you know. So yeah, the dress works in different modes. So it measures the intimate the personal, the social, and the public space that we have around us. And those are all having considerative dimensions towards each other. So my sensor is seeing that and is basically measuring this. And that makes a decision. So there's a little bit of machine learning kind of integrated in that, makes a decision based on the distance that the people have towards the design. So yeah, it combines sensors, it combines microcontrollers, it combines robotics on the body, a little bit of machine learning. So it's a really broad mix of all these things together. And I think that makes the work in this field really interesting because I can start my day using a soldering iron or a sewing machine, or start to 3D print, use a 3D printing machine to 3D printer to print out my parts, or a laser cutter, right? I can start with tools or machines, and from the creative process, it's always something different, and it's really fun, sort of, you know. And also when you're busy with engineering or with programming, you always learn, right? So that is something that I really like about this profession, sort of. I have other designs that start to smoke. The more people that are around the body, around the person wearing the dress. I have dresses that create cocktails. I work with a girl called Victoria Modesta. She has a prosthetic leg. I create legs with her and for her. So it's always something different. I collaborate a lot with companies, so that can be Intel. I work with Microsoft, Swarovski, Cirque du Soleil, all kinds of different companies. And working with each company is also very different, which is really fun. They might have a piece of technology that they're promoting. They might want to have me beta test some kind of hardware or software elements. So yeah, my day is always very different, sort of, you know, and that is really, really fun for me. So the other thing that I try to do with my designs, some of them are a little bit like animal inspired, some are very whimsical, some are a little bit more statemental, like the spider dress, right? But what I also try to do is create some kind of extra layer of maybe having it inspired by mimicry or animals or animal behavior. One part, because I really like that myself, I'm very fascinated by the animal kingdom and behaviors of animals, and just how different species are like socializing and playing and all of that stuff. The other thing is part of the reason that I create a little bit like animal inspired designs maybe might also be to get more like, for example, children and kids involved in technology. What I always say is that children are currently often using technology as seeing their phones, right? But they don't really see the hardware components or any wirings and all of that stuff. That is a little bit too far, because it's also minuscule, it's also small, right? So also with my designs, I try to connect back to like a younger community of getting more kids, and then especially more girls involved with electronics and technology, because historically, like it's still kind of currently a problem that we still don't really have a really good gender balance in technology, right? In the world of technology. And though a lot of people are working towards this to get more people, and especially girls, into programming and mechanical engineering, all of that stuff, it doesn't go as fast. And one of the main problems is that I might be inspired and really like the mechanics of windmills and automatic cars and robots, right? But not everybody has that same connection to electronics and mechanics as I have, sort of, you know. But a lot of girls do like fashion, so having the fashion element in there, what I'm trying to do is leapfrog more females and girls into this field by using sort of fashion as the engager, sort of, you know, because normally it would be an analog dress, but now it's a dress based with all kinds of robotics and all kinds of like cool stuff embedded in there. And I do notice that is of a big interest of a lot of like females and girls and all of that stuff as well. So I do a lot of like workshops, lectures, trying to see and trying to find ways and trying to provoke ways to get more girls into this field, because it's just a really fun field to be in, because it's so explorative. We often think of technology as being something very boring, and that's historically has been a little bit from some kind, sort of, but really, if you dive into it and if you just start to understand what you can make with it, sort of, especially using like raw electronics electronics and all of that stuff. It's just super fun. So that is always something that I have as my hidden agenda, to instigate more people to use electronics as well. So yeah, that is a little bit me and the things that I do. I've been doing this for 22 years now, so for a longer time. I started in the beginning of 2000, where electronics were really big, right? So my dress looked maybe nice from the font, but you turned around and there was this huge computer on the back of the body, right? Which is not super sexy. So yeah, now we're in a time that the electronics that we have and that we can work with are so tiny and so small that it's just opened up for so many opportunities of measuring brain signals, connecting that to dresses. How can your dresses react to emotions through heart rates, through fight or flight response, anything that you can measure from the body, right? And what does that do to society at large? If our garments are showcasing our emotions, is that a comfortable thing, or is that actually very uncomfortable, right? If you can, and if you would show everything that you feel to people, because we have this very poetic notion of garments guided by our emotions. That's a really super cool thing, but is it really? So those things I'm trying to explore with the designs that I make. So it's very like research and design based, and also like how can these designs live in a smart city, for example, right? What clothing do we wear in 5 years, 10 years, but also 20 or 50 years, right? How can that look like? So that's like one of my big fascinations there as well. So yeah, that is a little bit the things that I am focused on and that I'm doing. I think that is in a broader sense what we are trying to do from Dutch design practice, not reconsider the past and things that already have been done, but consider the future and things that might be currently missing in society. How can technology be more emotive? How can it become more sensoric sensitive instead of overwhelming us currently, for example? So yeah, that is what I'm after. So yeah, that is it for me. I hope you enjoy your day and the rest of the Dutch Design Week. And you might see me later. Bye-bye.
Gaan wij samen voor.
Yeah, we had this day, a lot of different insights, 6 different guests. Are there any questions?
Yeah, questions, remarks.
Or online. And not all of you together, it's too much.
In this full house.
Yeah.
There's a microphone to use for questions.
There's a mic over there too? No?
No,
okay.
This one, please, yeah. And then we have our presenters near us, so they can answer their own questions. I think there's an extra microphone for them to answer any questions there are. So who are you asking?
Marijke. Well, it was a lot of information and a lot of new things I heard today. And I had actually a question for everybody, but I forgot them all. So I make a more general question. We heard a lot of business to business and government to government. A little bit of the knowledge part in some talks. And I was wondering, how can we weave all those 3 strings together more? How can we learn from each other and not doing just the business, government, or more the knowledge part? So I don't know who am I asking this, but feel free to elaborate a bit on that.
Are there any examples from the guest speakers, how we can interweave these 3 different?
Yeah, maybe Lotte, because they already work with Wageningen and they do the research, but I'm not sure.
Hello.
Hello.
So how to weave in the governmental and also business, but also and to exchange knowledge. I think, Philips Studios has founded this platform to exchange ideas between universities, artists, designers, or people that are both, and institutions. So in that way, we can exchange scientific knowledge from universities with design thinking. And that has already led to possible new tools or new, for example, innovations in healthcare. We're working on that. So from that point of view, and I'm thinking about the Sustainable Urban Design Summit. That's also a place where many different people with different backgrounds in different working environments share in that space a lot of knowledge and a lot of thoughts about societal issues and sustainability. So I think that's actually the way to do it. Also what Ivana said about just conversation, but this really, these conversations like on the Sustainable Urban Design Summit, they can really help to exchange all these ideas. And I think there are needed more platforms, like platforms also like CreativeNL. These are very important places where, you know, organizations that create these places like where we are today, where you have all these different people from different fields, different backgrounds to exchange ideas. I think that's really, really important.
Thank you. I also think to add to the question and what you said about CreativeNL, this is also where I see a role for ourselves. And of course, that's why we facilitate these network events, these meetings, being present at conferences and trying to make new connections and definitely foster those relationships together with the embassy network as well in the States. And ClickNL, we also work very closely with them. So I think you bring everyone together and the magic will happen, hopefully.
Thank you. More questions?
Yes.
If not so, we're going to close.
Exactly. Yeah, then I have some remarks to make. Thank you, Rob. So if there are no more questions, I first of all would like to thank all the people here on the stage today, as well as the people presenting online. Thank you for participating, for sharing your insights, your ideas, for the audience here, for the live streamers, and of course, Rob for moderating and taking on that very important job of tying it all together. Very thankful for that. There's also a few partners that I need to thank. We are working with ClickNL, as I mentioned. There's Adformatie, there's Entry, and Top Sector Creative Industries. So thank you to all of those. I also would like to bring out some other opportunities for you to attend this week. There will be a reunion event on Thursday, which will also dive a little deeper into all three countries, China, Germany, United States, the role of CreativeNL. New Dutch Wave will be powering this event together with Entry. So I'm very looking forward to that and hopefully see some of you over there. And in terms of the US, we are working together with the Dutch Gaming Association and looking into opportunities in San Francisco with the Games Development Conference. And of course, next March, as Danny already promoted and told you more about South by Southwest in Austin, a very big moment where all creative disciplines are coming together, as well as technology and music and arts, culture, tech. Very innovative and immersive opportunity and inspiration. Different cities are on board, so I'm excited for that. And if you have any questions, make sure to also hit me up later or by email. So I think this will be the end of our event. I did tell you what's next. My email might be useful, vera@creativenl.nl. And you will also see a QR code right now. Please take a moment to fill out our survey, because that will really help us evolve. We can learn from your comments, your ideas, your thoughts. So if you scan the QR code, you can help us by completing that. And now, for the people at home, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And for the people here, we have time to continue our conversation outside with networking drinks. So I'm very looking forward to speak to you all. And once again, thank you all very, very much.